Hello, dumelang, sanbonani, molweni, absheni. So good to be here. It's always interesting how people sit in an auditorium, you know, and someone like me who grew up small and never wanted to miss any opportunity, I always make sure that I sit here because I wanted to be memorable. But it's like interesting that some people prefer to hide even when there's no homework. Like today, we're not checking any homework. But people are sitting right at the back. You can imagine if I came with an opera vibe and I have cars for everyone, just in the first 5 rows. They'll miss it, right? They'll miss it, definitely. Now, let me try this trick that I've tried with UCT students. And I won't tell you what happened, but let's see what happens. Okay, now, all of you are invited to sit in the business class seats right here in front. The first 5 rows is business class. You get a cappuccino every time you come and sit here. Anyone for business class? Anyone for business class? No, if you're here already, you're fine. Yeah, but I mean, we're inviting other people. Actually, we should say the first 4 rows because 5 is too far. The first 4 rows, it's business class. Business class is always a privileged position if you don't know. Business class, there's a little bit of space. We give you refreshments. We treat you nicely even when the flight lands. We let you get out before the other people. But of course, some people, even when you give them the front seat, they don't want it. But when we get the spoils, they want the spoils. But let me tell you what I used to do with UCT students, if I say it. So I did this one day whilst I was having a meeting with my students. And they leave these seats, like a few of them sit in front. So I called people to the first 2 rows, business class. And people didn't come. After the business class has settled, then I said, everyone in business class is going with me for a smoothie after this. At my favorite smoothie place. Oh, did they want to move? I was like, business class is closed. Yeah, Valua Pelai, business class doesn't stay open forever. I was like, it's closed. And then, of course, there was a guy who came in late. And the guy just walked in and went straight to business class. And people were like, oh, I'm like, what's your problem? This guy could have gone to the back. This guy understands the world. They understand how opportunities come. They understand. And they sit in front. And so he went for a smoothie. I did that so many times. Some people ended up getting it, some don't get it. Anyway, let me get on with the talk. Tonight, I want to talk about the 3 things that I wish someone had told me before I left university. But, of course, when she read my bio, she read a long, flattering thing, right? And then I thought, we could have made it shorter. And of course, I forgot to tell her that I just recently summited Kilimanjaro. Recently, yes, recently in July. Did you know that your achievements expire? Yes, after 5 years. Oh no, actually, let me break it down. You see, you are here, your matric results are so irrelevant. Yes, we don't care how many A's you got. You know, you see he talks about graduating record time. It's because he's still very young. In his bio, they talked about his Tutuka grant. I'm like, yo, shame, she's so young. Because me, I don't tell you about my Tutuka grant, but I got it. Do you get what I mean? You know, so these things expire. My Tutuka grant is so irrelevant. It's so passé. Oh, graduating in record time. Oh, God. But it matters in go because you are young. So there are things that matter to you now. 5 years from now, he won't tell people that he graduated record time. He won't tell people that he got a bursary, what. Oh, please. Because he would have grown. So every achievement you get, 5 years later, it wears off. If you tell us about your Tutuka grant and you are 45, shoo, I hope you're not 45, my darling. Otherwise, it will sound like I'm shading you. So I'm just telling you about my Kilimanjaro because it happened in July. And going up Kilimanjaro is a huge achievement for a 57-year-old woman like me. Now, Kilimanjaro is not an easy mountain to climb. Not every hiker can go up Kilimanjaro. Just like not everyone can do a PhD in biochemistry. Some people choose to do it, some people choose not to do it. It's not easy. Some people go up Kilimanjaro and they don't come back, or they come back as corpses, right? And there are two things that kill people when they go up Kilimanjaro. You know that, right? You know that? You know? Wanna try? Wanna? Am I?
Lack of oxygen.
And the second one?
And the second one? Fatigue.
Fatigue doesn't kill anybody. Fatigue lets people give up, but definitely lack of oxygen. And lack of oxygen, of course, also makes you feel fatigued. But the second one is hypothermia. Yeah, you know hypothermia, right? So it's because it's so cold that your body temperature can go below the required level. Almost your fingers can freeze, your toes can freeze. So it's not fatigue because you can go down. You don't need, it's important to be fit, but it's not the main important thing. Being fit is important, but it is not sufficient. Okay, mathematicians will understand me. Important, but not sufficient conditions to get you up the mountain. It is your willpower, yes. If you don't have willpower, you will give up. And so that's why I'm proud. It is, of course, about 5,800 and something meters above sea level. It is the highest mountain on the African continent and the highest freestanding mountain in the world. And to go up at 57 when your legs are sore is no easy task at all. So I'm very proud of that. All right, so I want to talk about 3 things, and I'll keep referring to the Kilimanjaro experience, because when you do something that's difficult, that not everybody chooses to do, there's always a million reasons why you should stop doing it, or why you can do it in a mediocre way. There's always a million reasons. You're the first at home to do your master's. You're the first whatever. You know, the supervisor is mean. He's so nice. We'll explain about supervisors. Your supervisor, guys, is your promoter. There's a good reason why in the US they call them the promoter. That you don't fight with them unnecessarily. It doesn't matter how mean or how difficult they are. You try to make the relationship work. Because they know people who know people who know people. And if the relationship works, they will set you up. I was set up by my supervisor. That's not because there was never many opportunities for me to start World War III. There were many. There were many. Like when you read her paper and you're like, hey, this sentence comes from my proposal. Yes, you know what I'm talking about? I have felt that way. I'm like, this supervisor of mine is a top dog, but this sentence, she didn't give it to me. She saw it for the first time from me. And now it's in her paper. You want to start World War III. You've got to be wise. Don't start World War III for a sentence or a paragraph. Let it go, man. You're going to have many. And then you've got to know that ideas are co-constructed. So you co-construct your ideas with your supervisor. And so sometimes you end up sounding like them, they end up sound, or you, When I get you are inexperienced, you are like, now he's sounding like me. But you are sounding more like him. I mean, it's like you are the academic child. So these things keep going. So hey, uxolo bazalwane, peace. Hey, black students like fighting. Hey, we are being abused here. No. No, don't mess up your chances. You want your supervisor to tell the whole world that you are the best student ever. That's what you want. Because you want to go with them forever. You nominate them for every award that comes along. You don't start competing with your supervisor. Because you will never win. I tell you, you will never win. It doesn't matter how weak they are. How weak you think they are. You will never win. You nominate them for awards. Uti, Prof, Doctor, I saw this award.
This is awards, guys.
And I thought, it looks like you can get it. I would like to nominate you. Do good, man. It comes back to you 100-fold. 3 things that I wish someone had told me. Number 1, there is a big difference between getting a qualification and getting an education. You know, many people confuse getting a certificate with getting an education. And that's the reason why we have so many people today who have certificates but cannot do the job that the certificate says they can do. And I'm not talking about people who have studied mathematics and are suddenly expected to function like CAs. Because it's numbers. People think when you did mathematics, it's like any number, you must do it. I'm like, come on, guys, topology is not just numbers, please. You know. I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about people who have a BCom degree, but cannot figure out an income and expenditure statement. I mean, I'm putting it more simplistically, but, you know, something like that. So, there's a huge difference between between getting an education and getting a degree. And when you teach at university, you meet different kinds of students. And you can see by how they work. Some of them are very hardworking and will do all they can to learn as much as they can, not only from their lecturers, but also from their interaction with the lecturer as well as other students. But there are also students who want to do as little as they can to get the degree. In essence, they'll cheat their way to the degree. And, you know, they always look for easy ways to get marks, even when they know they have not learned anything. And of course, at the end, they may end up getting the degree, but they know nothing about what the degree says. It's almost like people who have the certificate to swim, but they cannot swim. You throw them into a shallow pool, and they drown. We've got so many people who are drowning out there, and they boast about the degrees that they have. But the degrees that they have do not make them a swimmer. So, what kind of a student are you? And don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm really for qualifications, and I want you to get the qualification. So I'm not saying the qualification is wrong, but I want to say to you it's different from an education. They are not the same thing. You're all here, and you'll probably all end up getting the qualification, but some of you will also get an education. Because the education is not just what you get in the lecture hall. The education sometimes cannot be written in the certificate. The education you get on the picket line, in the laboratory, in halls like this, in interactions with people, in everything that you do, you get an education. But to be able to get the education, you need to be able to be aware that this is a learning environment. And then you make it your business to learn. So you've got to make the most of the opportunity. I mean, one of the things that worries me today about young people in South Africa is how much they are anti-foreign nationals. Let's just talk here. CP, riba na ba ko gae. Le ska ba jwetsa hore ke rileng. You know, if you come from a village, and the only people you want to relate with, to be in class with, are people from your village, you are not benefiting anything. The power of going to university is that it exposes you to people. You see, here you are all the same race. In another university, at UCT, I would say to them, you see, it is the first time that you'll be with a white Jewish student whose parents has got more money than you. They are driving a Porsche to come to school, and you got the same results, and you're sitting side by side. Basic education in this country doesn't do that for you, because basic education is two parallel systems, for the poor and for the rich. It's only at university where there's nothing for the poor and for the rich. We come together. Of course, there are children, black children here, who are very wealthy where they come from. In basic education, they wouldn't be with you in the same class. Now, the other thing that it does is that it gets students from other countries with you. I don't know how many countries are represented on this campus. But let me tell you, it's a value. It prepares you for the real world. The real world doesn't only consist of South Africans. The real world consists of people from all over. That's who you're going to compete. Those people from Zimbabwe that you don't want here in your classes, you are going to get them in the context of work. And you will compete with them. For grants, that's very same Malawians, Tanzanian, Uganda, Egyptians, same pot when you compete for an international grant. The best thing is that when they're here, you work with them. You learn what they got. You know, when I first went to VETS, it was in 1989. Yeah, I know, I told you I'm 57. You are not even an idea, I know. But of course, people can't tell us who's older between you and I. I mean, what can I do? I hope you have a sense of humor. I'm practicing to be a stand-up comedian, and I'm gonna do a one night only. And you pay, and I won't do it again. So I'm practicing on you. But if you're going to be touched on the studio, I ask you to leave the room, please. Please, because sense of humor galore. If you are getting a little bit uncomfortable, please leave. Kuzoba rough shame. Okay, so when you have a campus that's got people from different countries, you learn things that you wouldn't learn when you're only with South Africans. When I first went to VETS, I'm in the generation that went through apartheid education. When Verwoerd said a black person can't do mathematics, I'm one of those who defied him. Okay, so it wasn't as soft as you are getting it now, guys. It wasn't as soft. So this model C, there was nothing like that. It was township or village school, only. And then I get to VETS, I hear, as I'm relating, every time, and you know when I got to VETS, there were not many black people. And the few black people who were there, they were clubbing together. I'm like, these ones, I know what we talk about, whatever. When I went to the white people, I want to hear what they're saying, what they're talking about. Yes, that's what you must do. You must go to a context where you don't know much, so that you can learn. Don't say we don't want them in our country. If they are here and they are legal, you learn, you compete. And then I learned that some schools had something called head girls and head boys. I was like, what? Like I realized all these women I was relating with were all head girls. I was asking them, so how do you become a head girl? They were explaining, and then I calculated, I was like, I could have made it. But unfortunately, you know, in my village school, go Hibirone. You can go Hibirone. There was nothing like that. But I wouldn't have known if I didn't. So it's good to relate with people who don't come from your village, from your context. You realize that actually there are people who pray to another God. And they are normal. They eat things that you wouldn't eat. They smell differently, you know, and they believe different things. And then you get an opportunity to make decisions. Do I continue with my God, with my ways of being, or do I want to adopt? You ask questions. You don't make assumptions, you ask questions. But that's education. You suddenly learn how people from Sri Lanka look like. And then you suddenly understand what are A-levels. You don't just hate A-levels because Zimbabweans come with A-levels. Like, yeah, they come with A-levels here and they're better than us, they're advantage. We don't want them. No. You learn. What is A-levels? Oh, okay. And then you realize, oh, okay, and there are I can take my child there one day because here the children don't get beaten. I can take them there. I mean, you are educated. You learn a lot of things. So don't wish for a country that has got no diversity. Whether it's racial diversity or national diversity. I'm not saying cry for racists, no. I'm saying diversity is good for you. For your education on your campus, it's good. Gravitate to people who don't look or smell like you or believe what you believe. And then don't make assumptions about them. Ask questions and find out. And that's an education all on its own. So you are at university, what you get in the lecture room is important. You'll get a certificate, you'll get whatever, but there are so many other things that you can get that are educative on the campus that you would never get if you just stayed at home and studied by distance. So get an education. It's all in your hands. The education that you get is in your hands. You'll get out with the same degree, but you will have been educated differently. Some of you will be better at certain things because they joined societies, cultural, whatever. They were members of the Nigerian society. They went to the Nigerian society to see what is this thing about Nigerians. Rather than just have an attitude. Number 2, I wish someone had told me that there's a big difference between a career and a job. Today, we hear so many people want jobs. And of course, oftentimes when we talk about going to university and graduating, we emphasize the importance of that in getting a job. And of course, that will be useful. But in fact, I think we can get to a point where we realize that, my view is that university is not a license to a job. It teaches you other things. It doesn't just prepare you for a job. Otherwise, that's weak, man. If it just prepares you for a job, oh no, come on, man. It endows you with other things to an extent that even when there's no job, you can prepare, you can create a job. I was listening to a recording by someone, is a priest that I know, I saw it just came onto my WhatsApp, about we as South Africans should be so ashamed of ourselves that we sit and complain that there are no jobs. And Pakistanis come and take over our spaza shops. And they go big. Did you see what MTN has done now? MTN has introduced a new thing. They are working with spaza shops. The Pakistanis have taken over the township economy. Why? Because black people who live in townships are waiting for the government to create jobs. Because them is too low class to create anything. So what do? They give their places, they hire it out to a Pakistani. The Pakistani occupies it, sells at the bottom, sleeps on top, and they make money. They work together, they buy in bulk. Tiger Brands will give them good prices because they buy in bulk. Why wouldn't even me, if I were Tiger Brands, I would give them a good price because they buy in bulk. Why? Because you are waiting for a job. Oh, I'm not in a degree. I'm waiting for a job. And I hope you realize that they are teaching you that jobs, you can create it. Now, a university endows you with confidence, endows you with creative thinking, critical thinking, and you can actually see services that people need and then start offering them and charge them. Rather than hand over your spaza shop to the Pakistanis. And then the next thing what we do, we want to kick them out. Because rona rena le degree and rena mesebetsi and they're occupying our townships. You gave it to them. And they're making money, you no more now. But what I'm saying is that the degree is not a license to a job. It endows you with something much more powerful. A network, a mind, and confidence. You know, there's something about confidence that comes with just getting a degree. That says, I can do this. And when you ask for a loan, but I have a BSc from SMU. Of course! It's not like, what did you pass matric? You say, no, I've got a master's from SMU in anatomy. At least you've got something to put on the table. It endows you with the confidence to knock on doors and say, I've got this, I can do this, I want your support in this, because you've thought about this, what you want to do very carefully. If you're not doing that, and you're just sitting and waiting for a job, university yakho. So, today, when I talk about the difference between a job and a career, I want you to know the things that make, when I look at people, I realize, you know, when you're in management, whether at a university or in any situation, you realize who's doing a job, who's doing a career. Because people can be doing the same activity. They can be having the same job, same title, same job description, but they're involved. They have different purposes. You can be doing the same thing, but your purpose is different. One may be packing or doing whatever in the lab. That's all they're doing. They want to earn money. 4 o'clock, 10 to 4, they start packing. They join a union. If you ask them to stay until 5 because there's something that we must do, they're going to report you to labor. Because they must calculate the 40 hours per week. Anything more is abuse of power. And then the people who are building a career, they understand that they're working for themselves. They're not working for anyone. In fact, before they leave, they come, they say, hey, Prof, you know, today I need to leave at 4. My daughter is at crash, but I just wanted to check whether is there anything that I can do. Because if there's something that I can do, Prof, I can send someone to fetch my daughter, and I can help you. Anything, Prof? Why? Because they're working for themselves. They're working for themselves. They don't care that they're going to go beyond 40 hours. Why? They know what they're doing. They're building a career. Their why is much bigger, and so they're building. They know that in this extra thing that they're doing, there's always something to learn. But not only that, Prof will know the dependable person in the office. The next time I apply for a senior position, I can easily ask Prof to write a reference for me, and she will have something to write. That's true. Look, I'm not against labor. You can join a union. They will protect your rights. We have a country that's got a bad history of workers being abused. I'm saying to you, before you join a union, get a mentor. Not a mentor who will lie to you and tell you you are great when you're not great. A mentor who will set exorbitant goals and give you hell when you don't achieve them. When you give them excuse, they tell you, this is the 3rd time you're giving me excuses. You must be serious about this career. Otherwise, you are wasting my time. You are wasting my time. We are not doing this. Not those who will say, yeah, I know you have a 6-month-old. I want one who will say, I had a 6-month-old also. It's not the end of the world. You are not the first person to have 6 months old. So please, do you want this career? You should leave it and raise your 6 months old then. Leave me alone. I have too many people I can mentor. And then, of course, they will rejoice you through when you succeed. Like, wow. I knew you had it in you. You know, you did this yourself, even though they know how much they carried you. They go, you are all that and more. A PhD, you can do it. Or now you've got the PhD. You know, you killed it, man. You can write papers now. In fact, you can write a book. And then now you feel a good ish. Right? They celebrate with you, but they challenge you. They don't say more than 40 hours. That's abuse. They tell you, maybe you should ask your manager that you want to be challenged, that you feel unchallenged at work. That's another way of asking for promotion. Like, I feel unchallenged, I've been in this job for too long. It's like the same thing. And, I feel like I need, so please, if there's something that I can do that, please, just bring it to me. Because basically you are saying I've been in this position too long. The ones who are there for a job, all they want is the money. I want to earn more. They don't want to do more. They just want to earn more. Did I say money is bad? No. But here's the point. Money will come to you if you focus on building a career. If you build a career, everybody wants to work with smart people, smart, hardworking people. Everyone. So you'll get multiple opportunities. You don't know what we talk about when we are at dinner with other grown-ups. We talk about you. Like, oh, Eugenia, star. Or we say, who Tabo? Just leave him. Bloody arrogant bastard. He's not going to do anything. Just leave him. That's what people do at dinner. And then someone will one day call you and say, do you have a number of that Eugenia? I have an opportunity here, and I think someone like Eugenia. And then you get surprised. Eugenia has got no connections. He's just another student. And suddenly, he's getting calls. And you wonder how that happened. And then you think it happens because she came to Prof. Pakeng after the talk and say, I want you to mentor me. And you think Prof. Pakeng is just going to give them your name. No. So you want the community of people who can advocate for you to grow. Because there will never be a time where you lack opportunity. It will always come. But if you build a career, money will come. So don't just chase money. Think about what is it that I'm doing here. And sometimes you start low. And I often tell the story of when I started doing my PhD. You are very lucky. Some of you are doing your postgrads full-time. You see, us who grew up during apartheid, none of my postgrads were full-time. It was all part-time. And I'm working, and I have a family, children there, But you want the PhD, you must do it, right? And so you're working, and I wanted to start a PhD, and I got this opportunity to be a research assistant. At that time, I was a project manager at a non-governmental organization, at an NGO. And I decided to take leave without pay when I started my PhD to go and work for this project as a research assistant full-time. And you can imagine what happens to the salary. Because a research assistant is basically a slave for the research team. I have a master's degree in the research team. There are people who have master's degrees, they're not even doing PhDs. And I'm the only black, and I'm the research assistant. My friend said, you are stupid. You are smart. How can you even be a slave for these white people? Some of them don't even have PhDs. I said, no. I know what I'm doing here. Me, I want my foot into academia. And this was at Wits. I was like, I'm in at Wits. I promise you, they will not let go of me. By the time I'm done, I will know everything that the research leader knows, which is running a big research project, applying for funds, just leading people. So when it came to organizing data collection, I was the first one. I'm the one packing boxes. I'm the driver. Meetings of the research team, I'm the one pushing the desk, making coffee. Coffee, you want coffee or tea? I was that one. Writing, I was the one who's writing, And And 3 years down the line, we had a book, and I had co-authored 3 chapters in the book. When we graduated with a PhD, other people were getting a PhD. My friends were getting PhDs. I was getting a damn career. And that's why 2 years after my PhD, I had a C1 rating. 2 years. But of course, I wanted to shoot myself. You know why? Because I wanted a P1. I was too old. They said I was too old. I was 36, and P, you must get it at 35. Remember, all the postgrad, I'm talking to them because they know what I'm saying. I'm saying to you, you should wish for better. When you start being an academic, you got to know. 2 years, I almost shot myself. I went to the office of the Deputy Vice Chancellor, and I said, I want to appeal because the feedback looked glorious. And the Deputy Vice Chancellor was Belinda Bazoli. She sent me packing. What do you want? And then I said, I'm going to tell the Vice Chancellor. I went to the Vice Chancellor, was Luis Ononga. I went, and he said, do you think a rating is the one? I didn't know that he had a C1 rating at that time. And he was a Vice Chancellor. I learned later. I was like, wow. No wonder he didn't want to hear from me. None of them wanted to appeal for me. They said, this is good, what do you want? Because I wanted better. So it is possible. 2 years after your PhD, it is possible. But it's because I'd been a research assistant. So if you ever get an opportunity that looks like it's taking you down, because the research assistantship was taking me down. I ended up resigning, by the way, from my job, my NGO job, after a year. And then I applied for a job to be a tutor at VETS in the math department. From being a project manager, I never negotiated a salary. My gross at VETS was not even equal to my net at the NGO. It took 3 years for my gross salary at VETS to be equal to my net salary. You know the difference, most. I can't keep on a market. Ketlareng. E ka re markets a letse bore ke bua ka eng. So ke re ke botseng bathong. A ke re ke tla le tlhalosetsa. Okay, ha le tlhaloganya go right. So, and what I'm saying to you is, here's the thing. I lost the money, but I got the career. And then, of course, the next black person who came after me, Egaha, who was doing a PhD with us, negotiated. I heard that he's negotiating. This professor told me, oh, he's negotiating. I was like, I was so angry. I'm like, but I'm delivering more. Okay, suffices to say the guy didn't even get his PhD. He negotiated, they gave him more money, and he still didn't get his PhD. I'm not saying it's the money that made him not get the PhD. I'm just saying, Jay, that you've got to be clear about what is it that you want. I wanted a career, and so I focused on the career. And you know in the career that you're looking for, what is it? So don't focus on the job only, because if you're focusing on the job only, then you're focusing on getting the money as long as you wake up, and then only the 8 hours a day, you must stop, otherwise you're abused. When at lunchtime, you must always take it, you don't want disturbance. And then when you leave Friday, I don't read my emails on the weekends. Yes, there are people who tell us that. They tell you, I don't read emails on weekends. So please, from 4 o'clock, Friday 4 o'clock, until Monday 8 o'clock, if you send anything, Prof, don't think I'm going to read it. They're doing a job. They're not building a career. And of course, you can't blame them, because that's that's what they're doing. What can you do? But then they complain, when the other one succeeds. Right? So make sure that you build a career, and you don't just focus on a job. And here's the thing, a career, you can only build a career if you are clear about why you do what you do. If you don't know why, like many students who are doing postgrads, I ask, why are you doing a postgrad? Why are you doing a master's in biochemistry? I ask, what are you going to do with this PhD in anatomy? Like, what are you going to do with it? They don't know. As long as, Prof, I can't know, so I thought I should just. I'm like, wow. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. And then after getting a PhD, then they expect someone to trust them with anything. Like they don't know why they're doing. I hope you know why you're doing this. If you don't know, please sit tonight. Try to find a reason. Why are you doing this? What are you going to do with it? Do you really like it? Because it is the why that helps you build a career. It's the why that sustains you when things are tough. When I went up Kilimanjaro, every minute, just after the first 10Ks, and you don't walk fast, by the way, you go slow. Because you're supposed to be breathing as if you're sitting on a couch, even though you're hiking up. You go very slowly. And I can tell you so many opportunities to just give up. You ask yourself, why am I doing this? It's so tough. It is so tough. Why am I doing this to myself? I've got doctorates, I'm fine. You can easily do that. So what's going to carry you is your why. If you don't have a why, you'll never climb Kilimanjaro up to the last summit. You will get off at the first summit. You might never finish your PhD, or you might get a PhD and you're a grumpy PhD holder. Oh, there are so many in this country. They think we owe them because they have a PhD. It's like they did it for us. No, seriously. It's like you didn't do it for us. You did it for you. What were you thinking? What did you want to do with this PhD? So you've got to be clear. Your why must be clear. And so when it's tough, you say, I know why I'm doing this. So I'm not going to fight with this prof. I know why I'm doing this, and I'm going to keep going. And the why becomes more pronounced. Your career helps you. If you're building a career, you don't wait until you complete. I hope you started. If you haven't started, you can start tonight by just getting why are you doing this. Number 3. Number 3 ke number last. La hopola? Maybe a little bit. So the third thing that I wish someone had told me before I left university is the value of opportunity. I wish someone had told me about the value of an opportunity. I learned about this a little late in my career. And when I look back at my career, when people ask me what made it happen, I realized most of it was about grabbing opportunities. Now, here's the thing about opportunity. We can get the same opportunity. It's what you do with the opportunity. Some people do nothing with the opportunity. Whether there's an opportunity for scholarship, whether there's an opportunity to go to the US, whatever, it doesn't matter. But an opportunity is only useful if you use it. You've got to use it. You've got to milk it. So everywhere you go, you've got to ask yourself, what's the opportunity? Even when you're coming to this event today, you could be sitting in the library studying, by the way. And you came here. If you don't want it to be a waste of time, you've got to ask yourself, what's the opportunity? Why am I going there? What's the opportunity? Why? Because there will be a lot of opportunity here that other people, I might not see them, but they might be there. Maybe of a collaborator, maybe of whatever, you never know. Here's a story. When I was doing my PhD at Wits and working, the NRF had a partnership with the National Science Foundation in the US. And of course, I started in 1998, and I think they advertised the fellowship for students, PhD students, to go to spend time in the US. And there were a list of universities in the US that you could choose to go to. Unfortunately, I had been looking, I'd been stuck on my data. I didn't do linguistics, but I wanted to do a discourse analysis, and I've been reading, and I chose this. I'd been reading this book, and I learned that this guy who wrote this book that was very accessible, making sense, but I still could not use the theoretical tools to analyze my data, was at the University of Wisconsin-Madison in the Midwest in the US. And so it was on the list, and I decided I'm gonna choose that. Many people were not choosing it because the Midwest is a conservative part of the US, and it's damn cold in winter, the lake freezes, and so on. There was Michigan, there were cool universities, you know. Michigan at Ann Harbor, and there was Columbia, there was what. So people chose the cool stuff. But I chose this because I had an agenda. Can you see my why was clear? I didn't bother about the cool whatever. So I remember that it was me and Dr. Ramotolo that we went. He's doing astronomy, and it's got also a good group of astronomers, especially black astronomers. We ended up at University of Wisconsin-Madison. And I remember that because I was married with a child and, you know, family, whatever, I couldn't stay for long. I stayed only for 1 month whilst I was doing a PhD. And I thought, I'm gonna use this month. The first thing, before I went, I looked for an email for this guy, Professor Jim G. And I didn't know anything about him. I was just reading his book. I sent him an email and I said, I've got a fellowship to come to University of Wisconsin-Madison. I'm arriving this day, and I would really like to meet with you. I've got data, fascinating data, and I want to use your tools. He didn't respond. When I landed on that day, I think it was a Tuesday, I found out. I asked whether he's got a course that he's teaching. You know, in the US, PhD students take it's a seminar course. So there's seminar classes, and they go into the same classes with masters. And they told me he's got a class on a Wednesday evening starting at 5 or something. I arrive on Tuesday, right? Tuesday night. Jet lag and all. I had read the whole entire book. My book had stickers, underlining, blah, blah. I went to the lecture. I sat right in front. I used to do hair with beads. The shiny beads was my signature. I sat right in front in a class of US students in the Midwest. The Midwest is largely white. And I sat there in front, and I didn't know him. And there he was teaching. You know, American classes, lecture halls are very different from the US lecture halls. They are very animated Americans. So he went on, he's teaching. And then he would throw a question, and I would say, when he says X, I would say Y. He said Y, I would say Z. So he sees me, and we go, and the whole class sees me, but they can't see me in front, you see. They just see the beads. And it wasn't the first class of the semester. At the end of the lecture, he comes to me and he says, tell me, who are you? Because I was the only one who knew everything that he was talking about, because I had read the book. I had read the whole entire book, because I realized I've got 1 month and I've got a problem. I've got data. I don't know how to use these tools, but I understand these tools. I want someone to help me apply these tools. So I wanted to make sure that when I procure his time, he knows that I'm not wasting his time. I know his stuff. I said, I'm Mamkheti from South Africa. He said, oh. I said, I wrote to you, Prof. I wrote to you, and I asked you. He says, oh, it's you who sent me that email. And I said, yes. And he said, how long are you here? I'm like, a month. He said, come and see me tomorrow in my office. We'll talk. I went to see him. And then I had the privilege of meeting with him twice a week for an hour. The professors at Vets could not believe it. They said, the arrogant bastard has agreed to meet with you. People are struggling. I didn't know that people are struggling to get his time. But here he is, right? What am I doing? Milking the opportunity. I've got 1 month. People who are single, who don't have families, are spending 2 months, 3 months. Me, I've got baggage. I must go back home. My child is a little boy. I must go home. So 1 month, diyasebenza. So I know my problem. I'm not sitting there and complaining, the scholarship is unfair. Like my 2000 Mandela generation, they just complain. But it's unfair. It's unfair to us who are married. No. I realized I'm going to milk this. I could find many faults with the opportunity. Every opportunity. If you want to find fault with the opportunity, you can find it. No opportunity is ever enough. You want it colored a little yellow. You want it longer. You want it a little bit this way, that way. But it's what it is. So you've got to use it as it comes. And so there I was, got an opportunity to meet with G every week, twice a week. Prime opportunity. I gave him my data. He loved my data. We talked about everything. We even talked that he had little children who are as old as my son. And he said, oh, I'm doing research on computer games, children and computer games. I'm like, my son loves computer games. At that time, it was the Sim City that was still on. He's like, I can include your child in my project as one of the subjects. Don't worry, I'll pay him. So my son earned dollars. Because we are talking, like my data is interesting, I've read everything, I attended all his classes. No, what I'm saying is that everything is an opportunity. You grab the opportunity, you milk it. You milk it. Now, I'm attending 2 classes, seminar classes, this one of Prof. G and another one. And in the other class, they said, you know, who's going to present next week? I was like, yes, me. At that time, PowerPoint was not very popular. I mean, it was new. Yeah, I mean, right. I learned PowerPoint at the University of Wisconsin as I was preparing my presentation. I thought I've got nothing to lose. I'm here for a month. I'm going to make my presentation about what my study. If they don't like it, they'll tell me, and then I'll do something about it. But I'm not going to be shy. Oh, black students, perfect. Uba nozo presenter. Nangati, I'll do it. And then I presented. Before I see anyone's presentation, I want to make my one the blueprint. You don't wait for theirs. You must do yours first. So that Bona, they must have pressure to copy you. So after that we left. I'm sure I'm wasting time now. The scholarship ended. When I finished the PhD, I went back to the same university. I promise you, by the way, that 1 year, that 1 month that I visited, I remember they had a job and someone was presenting because he had applied. People were competing for a job in mathematics education, and I went to the presentations to hear. And this professor, Prof. G, said, these people are useless. Don't you want this job? Why don't you apply? I'm like, no, me, I want to go back to South Africa. I don't want a job here. Right? When I went back, with a PhD, I went back again in I graduated 2002. I went back in 2003. The first time I went was 2001. So now I want to close this story why I'm telling you this. And then whilst I was working at UNISA, one odd day, some colleague who's not a black African but is black, who works at UNISA, said to me, Kheti, I want to come and see you. I said, yes. And of course, she was in the group, the first group, the group that I went with to the US. She went to Michigan, you know, the posh. In Ann Arbor, not Michigan State, the real Michigan. The state is rural. So she said she wants to come and see me. She came to see me. She walked into my office. I was DVC at that time. She sat down and she wept. She cried. And I was like, what's going on? Did they bug you? Do you want to confide in me? What's going on? She says, Kheti, I do not believe. I cannot believe what you have done with that opportunity. You and I got the same opportunity. And I was like, yeah, but you got a PhD, Mus. I mean, I'm trying to make it. And she said, and that's all I got. And you got way more. You got way more. And she said, I wish I had used the opportunity as you did, because I can see how it worked for you. Because I left. When we left, I had network, I had been invited to Minnesota, to Georgia State, to whatever, to present. They stayed only in their university. But why do they invite you? Because people talk about you. They say there's this young woman from Africa with lots of beads on her head. Yeah, you should get. And she said, I wish. Now, you don't want to be that girl or that guy who says, I was with you, and I cannot believe what you've done with the opportunity. I was with you in Dr. Tibane's research group. And I cannot believe what you've done with that opportunity. Look at you now. And look at where I am. Because here's the thing. It's possible that all of you will get the degrees that you're studying towards. But that's a small win, guys. If that's all what you're looking for here, you are aiming too low. Because there is more you can get. You are a postgrad student. You can get publications with other people, with prof on your own. You can get out of here with some, you can apply for grants. You don't wait for Dr. Tibane to tell you. You can apply for them. You can say, yo, I won a lot of grants as a student. If you're just aiming for a degree, you are aiming way too low. I know that your parents will be happy, but it's because they don't understand. And if you are happy because they don't understand and they're going to throw a party anyway, that's your problem. Because the opportunity that you have to study here is way bigger. Dr. Tibane said you have an opportunity to shape the health system, particularly because of your location. Don't wish you were elsewhere. Look at the opportunities that come with being at SMU. If you don't do that, you'll always think this opportunity is lacking. Ngabe ke le ko UCT, I would be flying. But maybe you wouldn't even be flying. Mthetho wakho wena, you don't know how to fly. Even if we give you wings. So fly here. Let me tell you, there's more opportunity to fly here. There's more opportunity to fly here. So don't drop it. Don't aim too low and just focus on getting the degree. And you know, when you're at Svakomakatu University, you know, there's such a move. Right? You know, me when 1994 came, there was such a big move to give opportunity to black people. I grabbed every one of them. I was like, oh. Everyone that comes, I was like, Women in research, tutuka, You saw what I did there? Now, there's a concern that historically black universities are not jumping onto the train. You know, I started the Black Academics Advancement Program. Did you hear about it? Did you hear? You didn't even hear about the Black Academics Advancement Program. I started it in 2018 because when I applied for the money to study from my university, the private donors said, no, your university is fine, you must include all the universities. And we did. And SMU, they were not applying. They were not applying. It's only for black people. It was gazillions. To complete a PhD, you get 3 years. To do a postdoc, you get 2 years. You get a salary, we pay your person who's replacing you. You can go anywhere, everything paid. It was 500 million from private sector, right? But precisely what I'm saying, I'm asking for money from private sector to support the university that I lead. The private sector says, brilliant idea, but you have to include the HBUs. And then, of course, you advertise the HBUs don't apply. Individuals, because it's not the university that applies, individuals must apply. They don't apply. Now, I'm saying to you, Vugani bagwethu. Don't say they're only for UCT, they're for you. Actually, many of these grants that are in South Africa, they prioritize you. All you need to do from SMU is to write a good proposal. Then you will get it. Because before they consider vets, whatever, even if you are neck and neck with vets, they'll give it to you. You didn't know. I'm telling you. You know, right? I'm not lying. Whether you're an academic or a student or whatever, any academic in this university who doesn't have a grant, we are saying, I'm sorry. Any student, if there's a grant that's available there, you are not applying, you must know that you are just letting opportunities go. Because if you apply and you are like this with someone from UP, they choose you from SMU. That's what it is. Because we want HBUs to advance. So jump on that. Me, I jumped on the wave of the 1994, the Mandela wave. Jumped on the BEE wave. I don't know what it is, this one. Jump, because it's available. Make the most of it and drive your career. And that's opportunity. Make the most of this time. Don't regret looking back and say, I wish I had made use of my opportunity like you did. Well, those are the 3 things that I wish someone told me before I left university. I don't know if you have any questions. I know it's quarter to 8 and some of you haven't eaten. Some of you need to study. I can tell you a lot of other things. I just chose 3 out of the many things that I wish someone told me. But I'm going to pause here. Can I take questions?